think we are back. I think we are. We're really sorry. We just saw a man, he was an incredibly boring man, outside my house, cutting through an internet cable. He had a pint and he was with some blokes. So, I can, who knows what that means. But in the meantime, we've been having this really interesting discussion on Zoom, assuming that we're actually online. Whereas I don't think we have been. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Let's go there. Right. Okay, and we're going to come back on Facebook in a second. I chose the wrong thing for Facebook to go on. So yeah, we've been we are back on YouTube. We're coming back on Facebook. We're on Twitter as well. And so Jake's asking what happened there. Well, as we've said, there was some incredibly boring man crawling around in my back garden. He had apparently he had nice hair, and he had a few pints with some blokes, which is apparently how you connect with Red Wall voters. And as we're in the Red Wall, it's the first interaction we've had with them. So really sorry for the technical issues we've had due to that man cutting through the internet cable. But people are coming back. If you don't mind giving us a like and a share and subscribing and all those things, because the quality of the chat in the Zoom has been really, really good after we went off air there. But as I say, we can't help it if people come crawling into our back garden and chop things off. So what we were talking about in there was we're about to move on to the really big story in the title of this, which is, Labour have really done badly here. And the electoralism is probably a real negative for us. And the idea of the likes of Peter Mandelson being involved, someone who ignored the North, someone who's unpopular here, being brought in, that's particularly bad. And, no one seems to know what Labour stands for anymore. And we now have realised, all of us on this call, I'm sure, that this is somehow the fault of Angela Rayner. And we understand that is somehow her fault. But what is it about a northern working class woman with a real working class backstory and an accent that the Tories laugh at, that Keir Starmer finds so easy to throw under a bus, Mark?
Well, it's a shame because I was on a roll before. But I don't know what the answer to that question, to be honest. But what I do know is it's not Angela Rayner's fault. It's not Angela Rayner's fault. I've seen some stories online that she was responsible for the campaign. I do not believe that for a second. This was Keir Starmer's campaign. This was his first test as Labour leader. This was his time in the limelight to shine. We've seen all of this stuff at Prime Minister's Question Time, and he hasn't been great there either. He's had some good weeks and some bad weeks, a lot of bad weeks, to be honest, defending the Tory government and accepting this and accepting that from the Tory government. But this was his moment in a place like Hartlepool where we should win this seat, and we've done very badly. And when you have a look at it, it's very hard for him to make the case that it is Jeremy Corbyn's fault or Angela Rayner's fault, because when you look at Labour in Wales, they've done very well. When you look at Andy Burnham, done very well. Steve Rotherham in Liverpool, done very, very well. So it's very hard for him to turn around and make the case that it is Jeremy Corbyn's legacy that's caused all this. I find it very baffling.
Yeah, and we've also got a few people on the way, haven't we, as well? So, and we hear the names that are likely to go, and Andy MacDonald, in Northern Voice, Lisa Nandy. Maybe we in Socialist Think Tank, given that we're based much further north, might not consider Wigan to be the north, but a lot of people would consider it to be the north. Lisa Nandy, big rumour that she's going to go. I'm a big fan of Andy MacDonald. I think he's a good, solid MP. Nandy, I thought she was poor during the leadership campaign, but that'll be two leadership women that he was up against that'll be jettisoned if that's the case. Does Starmer have a woman problem? I know Annalise Dodds might be on the chopping block as well. Does Starmer have a woman problem?
It's certainly, I mean, it's you can't really sort of brand somebody with that at this stage, but it certainly hints towards that, doesn't it? It's everyone. The first person he gets rid of is always a woman. Also, I think he's got a power problem in that everybody who stood against him or said something against him have gone as well. Um, so yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this whole situation develops. In terms of Angela Rayner being at fault, um, no, I don't think she's at fault. I think she was. It's a long, convoluted story, I guess, around Angela Rayner. And if you hear any whinging, it's just me dog. I don't know what's the matter. What's the matter. Um, yeah, a lot of people were really disappointed when Angela went for deputy leader and the things she did subsequently, which seemed to suggest she was turning her back on the left. Um, I don't know if I have a thing about conspiracy theories, but I feel like maybe she did sell out a little bit and then somehow became like under the thumb of Keir Starmer, because what has she really done? She hasn't come out and publicly said a great deal. She certainly hasn't been as vocal as she used to be. And I think she has served as a very good tool for Keir Starmer to use in this instance. Not half an hour before he was on the news saying that he takes full responsibility and then starts sacking other people. I mean, does he mean that it was his responsibility to put Angela Rayner in that position and so it's his fault? Kind of like one of Sheldon's apologies where it's like, I'm sorry you feel that way. It just all just seems really grubby and a bit tacky, and just really people need to wake up, and the Labour Party need to ask themselves some serious questions and stop just trying to get around issues and start facing them. He did say he was going to face the country. Not really sure what that means, but
Well, she would have been an excellent tool, as I said before we were taken offline. She would have been an excellent tool tomorrow to defend or try and defend this leadership's campaign and over the last few weeks. But it looks as though she was going to be out there to defend Keir Starmer and Andrew Marr tomorrow morning, and now she won't be. So there's something going on inside the Labour Party. And as I say, while we, fighting between each other, which we shouldn't be, we've got Boris Johnson doing awful things to the country and to working class people. We need to move on from this. We need to change the Labour Party both nationally and locally, and get our house in order, if you like. Because while we're doing this, people are suffering in the background.
That's a hugely important point, I think. So I was just saying that's a hugely important point because what you've said there, like somehow we always manage to make everything about the Labour Party and how crap the Labour Party is. Like, why is it always a problem with the Labour Party? Like, Priti Patel managed to go and try to negotiate to get our foreign aid budget taken to Israel, allegedly, and yet she was sacked because of that, and then she's back in shadow cabinet, and nothing's really said. And then Gavin Williamson allegedly, leaked state secrets, which many would consider to be treason. Allegedly, and then he's back and he's in charge. Everyone thinks he's an idiot, but they don't think that he's a traitor. Now, Jeremy Corbyn was a traitor for doing nothing. Doing nothing that was actually traitorous. So, how do we always manage to make this about ourselves?
It's an interesting point you made a few nights ago, Paul. When I listened to you. You listen to people say that Jeremy Corbyn is dangerous. We can't trust him. Yet, he's supposed to be this person who is against having a military. He can't be an appeaser and then be dangerous at the same time.
Yeah. It was on the show last night, wasn't it, about Northern Ireland, where he was simultaneously in the IRA and a pacifist somehow. He's a terrorist and a pacifist simultaneously, and you can't be both.
Can't be both at the same time.
Yeah. And
Well,
apparently
Paul,
Nanny's
in
getting
that
sacked for being
respect,
disloyal.
though, it's not us who are making it about the Labour Party. In that respect that you've just detailed, it's the media always making it about the Labour
Yeah,
Party.
yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we're
You
not doing
walk into
ourselves
it
any
though.
favors because we don't kick off about the stuff we should be kicking off about. And that's what the left, and I hate using the term left and right because I think it goes much deeper than that. Just for ease of conversation, I'll say the left are always pushing for us to go, have you seen what the Tories are doing? Why aren't you saying anything? This is why there's infighting, because the leadership at the minute are trying to suppress democracy. They're trying to stop us challenging people. If we go into that parliament and support the government like we have done for the past year during the pandemic, then what is our point? What are we there to do? We're not going to win on that because we're just more of the same. That's the problem. And as I said earlier, it's always us who are compromising, and I'm sick of it. The right need to take a long, hard look at themselves and realise that doing the same things you did in 97 are not going to work now. Supporting a government that has literally been complicit in killing hundreds of thousands of people just through pure ineptitude, we should be furious. We should be absolutely tearing them to pieces. And we're not. And that is where we failed. We have not given anyone another alternative or an opportunity. Everyone just thinks they're being left. So let's just go with more of the same.
Now, the comments again have been absolutely brilliant tonight, and it's been so good to have them coming up on screen because we haven't been able to address them because they're coming in so thick and fast that, like, which one do you address? So I am reading them all, and I do think they're absolutely incredible, and our audience is one of the main reasons. The only people who are missing out, I suppose, are the people who listen on a podcast because the rest of the people can see this. But we have got some really high quality comments tonight. One of them is Durham County Council, DCC, which was, people use their little acronyms and terminology and stuff that people don't understand quite a lot. But I was glad people asked. That's Durham County Council have now not got any possibility of having a majority. So for the first time in its history, so over 100 years of Durham County Council, it will be in no overall control. Now, the Labour Party will still be the largest party, but it's going to have to work with other parties, or it would be possible, and it would be interesting to see whether the independents and the Tories and the Lib Dems form a coalition against Labour. It's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there, and I think lessons need to be learned about that. Now, interesting point, it related to Keir Starmer and related to Angela Rayner. When all this happened, when the Labour Party did badly at the last election, we thought, okay, Sedgefield, it's quite a high profile seat. The Tories were all over it. Boris Johnson's been here a few times, like to the south of he wouldn't want to come up the Wingate where it's a bit like, I don't know what would happen to him in Wingate, but we thought that Keir Starmer might be interested in coming here or virtually coming here and speaking to members, and we put out some requests, and we actually have someone who appears to be very close to him, who's a member of our CLP executive, who's actually quite high profile on Twitter, but has never turned up to a single CLP meeting or executive meeting, who's quite close to him, and we asked him to reach out and say, would Keir Starmer come? And he wasn't interested. He wasn't interested in... So, like, how can you think that you want to know how to win back the red wall, which, again, is a stupid thing. There's no such thing as the red wall. There are only people. There is no red wall. But how do you think you can win back these seats that you've lost without talking to the people who are your eyes and ears, and that's what Labour members should be. They should be your eyes and ears. Like, what's going on? Like, why are we losing? What's happened? It's not like we don't know. We know exactly why we're losing here. So why is he not interested in hearing that? Why would he rather have, like, a selection of people, maybe from Bury, who voted Conservative last time, to tell them what they want in a focus group, 6 people? That's not what it's about. It's about going out and going into your communities and learning. That is what you should be doing. That is clearly logical. Not little focus groups where you're like, oh, what do you think? Well, I just hate brown people. Right, the Labour Party now hates brown people. What, like, I'm not saying that's an actual policy, but that's how ridiculous it could be. If you're just listening to a small selection of people, that's not how it works. You need to listen to people who are listening to communities. That's how it should work.
Well, I feel a little bit better for that, Paul, because we've had a meeting 3 times in the last few weeks.
How many pints has he had in that time?
Oh, probably a few, to be honest. But it always seems to focus on a certain areas, which is a brewery. The power station always gets a look in, and Seaton Beach always seems to be popular for some reason. A beach with nobody on it seems to be popular. They don't focus on the areas that are needed. I mean, the candidate didn't even bother campaigning in this ward. It's seen as a Tory ward, I'll give you that, but it's not ward based in a by-election for MP. There's votes around here for him, but doesn't bother coming around. And I can't understand why. Just can't understand it.
Did you see him boxing?
Yes. Yeah.
It's embarrassing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Classic Tory trick. A photo opportunity.
Oh no! Did you see the video of him boxing?
I didn't see the video. I saw the photo.
I've never seen anything like it. Honestly, I'm not someone who likes to fight people, but Keir Starmer is someone who literally could not fight his way out of a paper bag. He looked stupid. And you've got like Jessie Jo Jacobs when she did it, and she was all proper and she knew what she was doing, and she's ducking and weaving and smacking people and stuff like that. By the way, that was also a travesty because Jessie Jo would have been an absolutely outstanding there.
Absolutely.
But that this is the thing we live now. On that note, there's a little thing that people have been feeding through to me, which is that they think that they're seeing the Tory cronyism, and it's not like they're blind to it. It's not that people are thinking that's not happening. What they're saying is, actually, if we vote Tory, will we get something out of it? So almost like a cronyistic vote, like they're corrupt. They'll give people who are in Tory wards something that they wouldn't give to people in Labour wards, and that is what is inspiring.
But what does that say, Paul, about the country that we're becoming? They're treating Labour areas and places where the Tories don't control as second-class citizens. That's what it's about. It's about treating other people like a different way. Giving pots of money to Ben Houchen and other Tory mayors and other Tory areas, and leaving places like Hartlepool out in the dark until they vote Tory. That's what's going on.
Now, Laura, the other day you were on Evan Davis's show, and again, like that, you were absolutely brilliant, by the way. And go and listen to it. It's about 20 minutes into the PM show on Thursday or Friday. Was it Friday? Friday. 20 minutes into the PM show, which is at 5 o'clock. So go and listen to Radio 4. You can listen to that on. Listen again. It's about as I said, I've said it nine times now. 20 minutes in. So you were quite articulate. Paul? Yeah, about 20 minutes. About 20 minutes in, I think. So if you had that speech and you really articulated really well what the problems are, but also you were described, one thing that's really frustrating, you were described as a Corbyn supporter, which is a really weird thing to do. Like, they wouldn't say, a Thatcher supporter, this person, or they didn't say to the actual Keir Starmer supporter, the Keir Starmer supporter, who actually I think works in his office, who was on with you, or whatever. I might be making that up, but who knows. Now, they have this strange narrative around everything they do, and they also have this real strange narrative around socialism. Now, I was listening to something where they were talking about Ben Houchen. They were like, Ben Houchen and Rishi Sunak aren't exactly typical Tories. Look at them spending money on things. That's socialism. And you're like, it's not, man. That's not what socialism is. Buying an airport out of public money isn't socialism. It's like, what do you do? You gotta just buy an airport. Oh, yeah, I tell you what, I bought an airport last week. Socialism in action. What? What do
Aye,
you
but they
mean?
drink pints, so it's all fine.
State subsidised pints for the rich and cheaper air flight for the rich. Socialism in action. That's what they seem to think. And you think, like, that airport is such a drain on the Tees Valley area, money wise. And yeah, it's nice to have an airport for people. And I always like to go to that airport, a nice little airport, and you would fly out of there and get your little cheap flights or whatever. But that's not really happening anymore, and it seems to be only used to get people out of the northeast as quickly as possible. Like Tory MPs get out of there as quickly as possible. So Sunak probably gets up there from Richmond. He's like, oh, I can drive up there, get a quick flight down, much easier. When he visits it once in a year or whatever, and then you've got like Dehenna, Davison, and Paul Howell, and all those other people like using that airport out, and it's subsidised by public funds. Why do people have this ridiculous idea of what socialism is, which is just spending public money on stuff? It's like, I don't understand. Sorry, I've rambled on for a bit there, and I meant to ask you, Laura.
Okay, yeah, that really did go on a massive tangent. I didn't talk about any of that on the show.
No, it's just like generally the media and the weirdness of the media and the weirdness of the way the media talk about socialism, and I'm sure we'll see that over the next few days as well with what's happening in this. They'll be like, obviously, we need to get rid of these extreme left-wing voices like Lisa Nandy, who thinks that you should have controls on immigration, which is very socialist. It's nonsense. Yeah. Like they don't seem to understand anything.
It's really difficult because it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? One of the fellas on the show called the press sycophantic for the Tories, and I just thought that was so perfect because they literally get away with murder. As far as the media are concerned. They can do no wrong, but yet Jeremy Corbyn makes a not delicious jam, and he's a demon, so it's when he sort of said the Corbyn supporter Laura, and then the other two just got and this person from this place, I was like, okay, well that comes with it quite a lot of bias before I've even opened my mouth. So now I'm going to be the loony lefty who's come to have a go at everybody, and I don't know if it was on purpose or what, but I think I've earned enough scepticism with the way the press have treated us over the years. I wasn't in Sedgefield constituency as the women's officer for more than a day before I was written about in the Daily Mail being a bully. So I'm kind of used to it now. But I think if people can cut through that nonsense and actually listen to the words we say, we do speak a lot of sense. Problem is no one's listening. Because they're too busy listening to mainstream media, which Keir Starmer himself, as you said, with his box and poses, is just, delved right into, really used it for all it's worth. It's just like, oh my God. But the thing about the massive Tory vote is that I'm confused as to what people are voting for, because the track record this year, you couldn't possibly say it's good. Nobody is, apart from the elite who've actually made money through the pandemic, who is doing better now as a result of this, and yet they're still voting Tory. And there's this narrative that it's like, oh, Boris, man, poor fella, he's had a hard time. He had COVID, he's trying his best, and he's a bit daft. No, he's far from daft. He's a very astute businessman. He's been trained to, from a very young age, to believe that he is a cut above everybody else. That is the world he's from. He wouldn't have a clue what it's like to live in the lives we've all lived. And he does mess his hair up before he comes out. That's a well-known fact now. He pulls his shirt out and stuff to make him look disheveled, so people buy into that persona that he's carefully crafted. And he'll have people, stylists, people who tell him how to stand, how to speak, how to make all the mistakes when he's trying to speak, how to fall over his words, to to perpetuate that image of him because it's working for him, and bloody hell isn't it working for him? It really is. And again, I'd said on Friday that another reason that I think feeds into all of this is because ordinary working class people and ordinary working people, they could be middle class, whatever, people who are busy just trying to get through the day, to feed their children, to walk their dog, to not die from a pandemic that is being disastrously handled, are too busy to sit and not just watch the news that is presented to them, but actually look deeper into it to find the truth there. They're too busy, looking for jobs that they won't lose next week, secure jobs, houses, decent education, all of this, stuff we're desperately fighting for that the government should, in my eyes, just be giving us anyway. Even like transport, they should be giving us enough just to get through our day so that we can then move on and think about important stuff like, what creative thing can I do today? What opportunity would I like to succeed with today? But no one's got time for that. And that is constructed for us. That life is constructed for us by a Tory government. If we are kept down, we are too busy to question them. And it is working for them. And they're the conversations we need to be having with people. And I'm not saying that you go in and find a Tory voter and tell them they're wrong, because like Paul, you always say, you don't win an argument by starting it with, well, you're wrong, and let me tell you why. Because we need to listen, we need to listen to why these people have voted Tory. And just saying, I don't like the Labour Party is not a good enough reason, although probably an accurate one at the moment.
Now, that brings me into something. Sorry, Mark, you continue on.
It makes me feel very frustrated when people say, poor Boris, as you just said there, Laura, he's had a difficult time, with this crisis, and he's had COVID himself and all that, all that rubbish that goes along with it. This is the guy that, if needed, would be leading us through a world war. That's what, when you go into Downing Street, you go straight in the cabinet room and you sign letters in case of conflict and a world war. And this would be the guy that would be leading us through a world war. Not a COVID crisis, not a health pandemic, a world war. He knew exactly what it was this job entailed. He knew how difficult it was. But he wasn't bothered to put the hours in. He missed 5 COBA meetings. He wasn't interested. He was more interested in his marriage, right, than actually sorting the country out and protecting people. I have got no time for this excuse that, poor Boris. It's pathetic.
Yeah, he was more interested in actually not his marriage, wasn't he? He was in the process of leaving his wife with cancer, which somehow he gets left alone from, in her time of need. He's just a dreadful person. So this is interesting. Richard Val, Laura is asking, what was the Tory turnout? What was the turnout? And he's saying he doesn't think there was a massive Tory turnout. He thinks there's a massive working class apathy or disconnect, and we need someone to back or fight for. An ideal is great, but we really need a poster girl. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're the poster girl.
I don't think so. No, I entirely agree with Richard. The Tory turnout wasn't massive. The Labour Party turnout was dramatically less, as you've seen. I think the Tories did the win by the Labour Party conceded before the vote was even finished. They were winning by over 50% in Hartlepool, that is. And we've seen the Tories here in County Durham have taken quite a lot of seats. Again, as you say, that isn't necessarily because of a massive Tory turnout, but it is a massive turn towards the Tories for people who'd maybe voted Lib Dem or Independent or Green or whatever, have kind of shaken all that off and gone back to the Tories for some reason. And the reason Labour Party weren't getting any members, as I've said time and again, and I'll continue to say it until we offer a real opposition, is because we do nout. We say nout. We sit in PMQs and go, well, I agree with the government and I won't oppose the government. And then when they say, should this person be sacked for doing all these horrendous things? Oh, that's not for me to say. And it's just like, it doesn't feel like we are offering anything alternative. We don't have an opposition, and so there's a lot of apathy there. And I don't want to bring it back to Jeremy Corbyn, because I don't believe it is one man who was responsible for that whole movement. It was a movement that had encouragement, enthusiasm, hope, excitement that brought thousands of people out. That is what we need. That was someone to get behind, but it wasn't one person, it was an idea. And that idea is being ripped away from us very quickly. It was being torn away for years. But we hung on, and now we feel like it's been replaced by something that's so starkly different, that those people who were so engaged and so enthused have kind of just gone, oh, what's the point? Because we gave blood, sweat and tears for that. We really did, and we battled for it. And that doesn't exist for us anymore. We need those ideals, those policies, that collectivism, that listening to people. What's so wrong with that? That's the party I want to be in. That's democracy in action. And we're not all going to agree all the time, but at least we could disagree in a consensus. We could disagree in a polite way. It doesn't have to be such a divide, but unfortunately we are here, and it is.
Can I just say, Paul, I see some of the talk on Twitter tonight from journalists is all about would there be a leadership challenge from the left? Maybe that's just media hype, and it's not actually true among Labour MPs. I don't know whether what you think on this, but I don't want there to be a leadership challenge now. That it's not the time. We shouldn't be going through that now as a party. I trusted that man when I voted for him. End of the day, I voted for Keir Starmer. I trusted he would bring the party together. That was the message he wanted to sell. Unity, and the things he promised, we need him to deliver. Let's put this election to bed. Let's focus now on moving forward. We need that man to deliver on the things he promised. Let's get back on track.
This is the interesting thing for me, and a few of you have seen it. It's actually a public Facebook post, so a few of you have seen this one. I put something out earlier on about what the Labour Party needs to do, and I was saying it's not really necessarily about the leader. The problem is the structures of the Labour Party now, and this goes right back down to electoralism and whether the Labour Party is a vehicle for change at all, or whether, because it seems like you can't even get past the establishment in the Labour Party to change things, never mind get into Westminster with those principles, and then you're up against barrier after barrier after barrier. But if you're going to do it, then the Labour Party needs to be something that is a grassroots organisation where you're listening to working class people, or any people, people who define as any class or whatever. You need to be in a community, and you need to get a majority opinion in there. And you'll find if you go and do that, and if you speak to them sensibly, you'll find that actually most of your socialist values they will share. They want fairness, they want equality, they want good safe jobs, they want a safe community, they want the NHS to look after them. They do support your socialist values if you speak to them, but everything's so confused in the media. So, for example, I had a little conversation with someone yesterday online who was really nice and polite. It was on someone else's page where he was saying that Labour had become too left-wing, and I was like, well, I would say they're not left-wing enough. And then he was saying, well, you ignored Brexit. I was like, that's anti-democratic. That's not too left-wing. Left-wing is for the working, because he was saying that the Labour Party aren't for the working class anymore. Well, left-wing is for the working class. It has to be defined. Left-wing has to be for the working class against big business and what have you. That is the divide. Right wing is for the establishment and for big business. Left wing is for the ordinary people. And if people have got that kind of confused mentality, and it comes into a comment that hang on, someone from Liverpool, Katie McDonough said she's really surprised at the North East. Now, they don't listen to the big business Sun. They are absolutely brilliant, in solidarity to the people of Liverpool. Well done there. They don't buy the Sun or what have you. But anyway, to go back to what you were talking about there, I want to see a Labour Party that is grassroots based and respects its members. I don't want to see a leadership challenge either. I think we'll see one from the right. However, I think Keir Starmer is, I've seen it time and again as a trade union rep. He's not a leader. He's a very, very poor manager. He's a poor middle manager. He tinkers around the edges and listens to other people and is like, oh, we've got to do this, oh, we've got to do that. And he doesn't have a vision. He doesn't know what he wants, but he knows what other people around him who are advising him, right, this is what we'll do to those people. And he doesn't see it as a collaboration. Like, a leader should be able to listen to a load of ideas and say, well, actually, listen to all what you've said. I've got some answers for you about why my vision fits in with that. And then I'll say, but actually you've changed my mind a little bit on a couple of things. So we're going to move that. That's what a leader does. They don't micromanage. They don't go, they're going to oppose me. I'll kick him out of the party. It's crap. Whatever he's doing is crap. So I don't think the man is capable of an original thought, never mind leading a political party. So as much as I don't want to see a leadership challenge, I don't see the Labour Party being as it possibly could be. It might never be able to be there. There might be too much establishment kind of force in there that's going to resist any change whatsoever. So there might be too much of that in there. But if there is going to be something, it's definitely not going to come from him. He's an establishment man. He will keep the party exactly as it is or move it right, because he's an establishment man. That's what he is. He's got no inspiration. He's just... no one knows what he even is. And he's worse than, like, just being a haircut, because he's doing damage. He's doing real damage. He's turning people off. Look at the lack of members. Look at members turning away in the droves and stuff. So as much as, we probably don't need to do more navel-gazing within the Labour Party, we need to do something else, and he's not going to do it. He doesn't know anything else. Sorry, Laura.
That's all right. I was just going to say that I was much of the mind of Mark. I didn't vote for Keir Starmer, but once he got voted in, I was like, right, okay, we'll give him a chance, because his pledges were all really good, and he wanted to unite the party. I haven't seen him even attempt to unite the party. In fact, all I've seen him and David Evans is so more division, with their grotesque rules that they've brought in, with their ridiculous suspensions. They suspend people all over the place and don't even tell them why, and there always tend to be people on the left. They haven't tried to hide this very well at all. And I just want to come back to something that Vonnie said that I just think is so spot on, and I don't know how we recover from it. People keep saying we need change, but nobody's told us how. Obviously, leadership challenge is one way that people have suggested. Some people are really, really angry at Keir Starmer. I think rightly so. But Vonnie said you can't unite people who believe in and want to maintain the status quo of neoliberal capitalism and those who want socialism. I couldn't agree more. Those two are so juxtaposed to each other. I'm getting that. I think I've had too many
juxtaposed. Juxtaposed. Yeah. You did really well there. Don't use juxtaposed. Dear me, if you want to not
after a few beers.
Yeah. Just say
I'm
something
so
else.
in class I drink beer. But yeah, they just don't match. They don't mesh. So how have we got all these neoliberals and all of these socialists in the same party? How do we get them to unite? At the minute, I think the neoliberals are just trying to kick everybody else out. So what happens? I don't know. It's really difficult.
Yeah. What, Mark, thoughts on that?
Well, I'm just looking at a tweet here that apparently Keir Starmer said his top priority was to stop the party squabbling amongst themselves. That's doing a very good. He's done a very good job at that. I think ultimately, as I said, I don't think we need a leadership challenge now. I want to give in my personal opinion, I want to give the man more time to change. If that change isn't possible, if he's not able to deliver a vision for where he takes the country and a vision for how he unites the party, then he needs to go. There's no other way of doing it. There's no other way of working, because we continue to go backwards. And we're fighting for the poorest in society. We're saying a liar, cheating, a fraud. Let's have it right. In Boris Johnson, he's destroying this country. He's separating and dividing this country. between the haves and the have-nots, and he's getting away with it. And this is right-wing populism. This is a classic example of right-wing populism. We saw it with Trump in America in 2016, and we're seeing it with Boris Johnson now. Let's call it what it is. It's right-wing populism.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just like, we don't need a leadership election, but we do need a leadership election because the right are going to go for him anyway. So the left need to be prepared for that. And by that, dear me, the Labour Party, Parliamentary Labour Party, is so right wing. They are so not what their members are, and they don't have the same beliefs as their members. They are a different set of people. It was interesting seeing Phil Wilson wheeled out and stuff like that. The fella who kicked down a sign that had said "hope" 3 times and screamed at like some women during a meeting about violence and aggression towards women. You know, like they have no that perfectly sums them up. They have no self-awareness. Tim has just said Durham County Council election results. It's quite funny as well because he said a very rough and ready. He said analysis, but it's like, you know, our filters have taken out the word anal there. So you know, they're working well. That's quite nice. Analysis of the TCC election results. A handful of seats to be declared, but most are done. Big loss of seats for Labour, but they remain the largest party by some way. More than double any other party, but well down. Lib Dems have increased the seats by about 25%. Tories have increased theirs by 50%. A lot of gains in the northwest and the west of the county. In Peterlee, the North East Party dominated, picking up 4 seats, just 1 more than last time out, but don't have seats elsewhere. Derwentide Independents lost a couple of seats. Seam Community Party, despite fielding a large number of candidates, didn't pick up any. Seam did well. Solidarity Seam, we love you. The Spennymoor Independents, and also well done Rochelle, because we love you as well. And Rochelle from Socialist Think Tank won her seat, and you know, that's the kind of person we need to be in there making change. The Seam Community Party, the Spennymoor Independents people before politics failed to win any seats this time around. The Greens got 1 seat. The Independents not aligned to any parties increased, approaching 50%. In rough summary, it's a hung council by some way. Who will align with whom and over what? I guess we'll be doing that on Tuesday. And in really sad news, obviously, like some of you who follow Socialist Think Tank, on a Tuesday, Political Unmuted, John Clare didn't get his seat, which is the... You know, if you value hard work, then it doesn't matter what political party you stand for. You don't vote against the person who's the only person working in a ward to do something. Like Paul Howell's been in there. It was a 425 when we did the subject access request. He's like doing 425 things in it, like, and Paul Howell had done 2 and Scott Durham had done none. You know, this guy's a hard-working guy. That's just a disgrace, and that's one of the weird things about politics, that, you know, you can be good at what you do and it doesn't matter. So
just say, Paul, on that, it would be wrong of me not to recognise some of the Labour councillors that got elected today in Hartlepool for the Labour Party CLP. Really, really hard workers, really, really solid people, good people, and they should be recognised for that. So I just want to recognise them.
Good, really good. So let's hope things change. In Hartlepool, actually, we should have learned some lessons from Hartlepool, because the people who were causing the problem and losing the respect of local people in the Labour Party switched and said they were Socialist Labour, and then went in a coalition with the Tories in Hartlepool. Right. And not very many people know that story, but they said they were the Socialist Labour Party, like of Arthur Scargill. And then
they caused a lot of our problems in our Labour Party here, and they were chucked out thanks to the people who are in there now. But you know, there's still work to do in repairing the damage that they did, and luckily a lot of them people are no longer in the council, so you'll be pleased to know that. And we have got a lot of new people being elected today as Labour councillors, and I look forward to see the work they do in the council, moving us forward beyond this terrible result.
Final comments from people. Northern Independence Party, 250 votes, yeah, in Hartlepool. Is that right?
I think that's about right. Yeah, yeah,
So I think maybe is there a lesson to be learned there? Like there was a lot of Twitter hype, a lot of media hype, and I have nothing against the people who saw no future in the Labour Party. Many of them were suspended as well, and back to Keir Starmer. That's the first. If he wants to start to make change, that's the only thing that would get me back on, like on a side where I don't want to see the back of him. Unsuspend those members, give Jeremy Corbyn the whip back, stop being so divisive. That would be something. And those people who were kicked out of the party and whatever, they needed something to cling to. But it hasn't worked out electorally, has it? Like 250 votes is very poor.
yeah. And Thelma Walker. I think you talked about Thelma Walker there, who was an excellent MP for Labour. Why she stood as the Northern Independence Party, I think the party's a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. I agree with some of the things it says, but really we don't want to be standing, especially Thelma. I'm a bit disappointed in Thelma Walker standing against the Labour Party there. I mean, I didn't. I voted Labour, obviously, but I didn't campaign for the candidate, not because I didn't think he was a good person, doctor, but because I didn't have a choice in picking him. But yeah, we don't want to be standing against Labour and taking votes away from Labour where we expect Labour to win, But on that, Paul, right? There's a lot of people, and this is really really sad, really to think this. And I think it's been said earlier on in the program. There's a lot of people I don't believe know how Parliament works. When you're an opposition MP, you've got only a vote and a voice in Parliament. You don't have control. You're not in government. You're not making decisions that affect people's lives. So we voted for change. The whole Tory mantra in this campaign was vote for change. What, to vote for the Tory party that we've had the last 11 years? That needs to be understood. I don't think it has been understood.
Yeah, that's fair. Laura, any points on this? I know we've seen Carl's, I think maybe thinks we're being a bit unfair on the Northern Independence Party. 3 months as a party, they haven't had a big opportunity to prove themselves. But it's very interesting as well that Sam Lee, who was the only real credible local candidate, did get about 7% of the vote, I think, which, given no party affiliation, I think that's something that we need to learn as well. People want to see a local person in there, so there'll be party loyalties, and but there'll also be town loyalties.
9.7%.
9.7. That's pretty good for an independent in an election that was that high profile in a safe Labour seat. So should parties be learning lessons from this and putting in good local candidates that are well known in their areas, that are decided by local members? Or is that because they seem to have found no difference between someone who was, I found out he was a doctor because he always had a stethoscope on in all these pictures. I didn't know until that point, but that didn't seem to matter to people, that he was a doctor. And it didn't seem to matter that the Tory candidate lived in a tax haven for however many years. If you're parachuting in a candidate, you're parachuting in a candidate. So, Laura?
Yeah, I think it really should be a given that somebody, at least in a neighbouring constituency, someone local who knows the area, goes for that seat. I don't think it serves anybody any purpose to bring somebody up from London to run in Hartlepool or Sedgefield or Easington, these places that have really rich working class histories, to come and tell us how things should be done. That's not going to fly here. We're clever people, and that gets really underestimated because of our working class titles, because we live near pit villages, things like that. And because of, as we said at the beginning of the show, historically, that southern discomfort, we don't need to worry about the northerners because they'll just vote for us. Well, those days are over. We need And I think we all agree on this panel. We may disagree on how to do it, but we agree that we need to be a grassroots up organisation in the Labour Party. And that means getting out around your local area, speaking to people, listening to what they want, what their fears and dreams are, so that you can pull that all together and formulate some sort of goal, some ideal, some way to resonate with those people. Because essentially you're their voice. Like Mark said, you only get a vote and a voice. That's it. That's all you can offer. That voice needs to be backed up by your constituents who you've spoken to. It doesn't need to be, hey, everyone, don't worry, I'm here. I'm going to save the day. I know what's best for you. You know, Fabianism is not the way to go. Let's do proper socialism where we actually talk to people. So yeah, but I feel like that should just be a given. I'm surprised that parachuting like happens at all. You're just gonna piss people off. So yeah, that's my last little note.
with Fabian, Hartlepool's pretty Fabian, isn't it, Mark? Like, you know, the Fabian
It's certainly got an
society's quite
element.
strong there.
It's certainly got an element to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the chair of the Fabians from Sedgefield, who's the person I referred to earlier on, who hasn't been to any of our executive meetings. So it's like I'll not listen to anyone. I'll just rock up at a Fabian meeting and tell everyone else how it goes. But on that note, I think we'll probably wrap it up. Do we think? Yeah, we've gone on way longer than I thought we would. We did have a little break in the middle. Thank you so much. The quality of the comments has been absolutely outstanding. I think for Carl's benefit, I don't think Mark was trying to explain to you how parliamentary politics works. I think he was saying that other people, like, say, like, for example, there've been some really silly comments this week from people saying they voted for the Tories because they brought in all the food banks.
Yes.
You know, and that way people are getting fed. And, you know, and I think one of the things that as socialists we need to do is be like, either be really grim around food banks. Like, if you're going to go to a food bank and have your photo taken, be grim as hell. Put the volunteers forward and be like, these are the brilliant volunteers. This horrible thing should not be happening. You know, because there's far too many people smiling at food banks. Everyone's like, yeah, food banks are cool. You know, let's have a cool food bank in our town. Why don't we have a food bank here? Well, you know, you don't want a food bank. You don't need it.
And there's far too many people, Paul, in this election saying they voted for change. But the voted for change. Tell me how that delivers change. Tell me how a Tory MP in this town delivers change when you've had a Tory government for the last 11 years. That tells me, and I don't want to be horrible about it, but that tells me that some people don't know how parliamentary democracy works and how a parliamentary system works.
Yeah,
that's all I was saying.
Yeah, I get that. It wasn't aimed at the viewers.
No.
The very wise viewers of this show. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much to Mark for being and Kath earlier on.
Pleasure to come on, by the way, Paul. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure to see you and chat to you, Mark. It's always a good thing to have you here and giving us the insight from Hartlepool as well, because a lot of people have been talking about it, but I've not really heard very many Hartlepool voices in any sort of media whatsoever. So really,
no, the media do turn up and then leave, you know, and they don't speak to a lot of people in the town.
Yeah, or if they do, it'll be some sort of caricature of someone like hanging a monkey or something like that. So. Yeah, always good. Okay, so thank you again, everyone. Say goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Right. Oh, and don't forget, you can be a member of Socialist Think Tank. You can join us. You can pay for that if you like, to help us to reach a wider audience and do the things that we do. But there is no hierarchy of membership in Socialist Think Tank. You will get exactly the same if you simply join up for free. And please do. Either of those options are absolutely brilliant. You can come in, you can join our WhatsApp group, you can join our forums and bring things up there. You can suggest future guests and just be involved. We love the people who are our members of Socialist Think Tank. We generally tend to love a lot of people being socialist. That's one of the prerequisites. But especially our members. Solidarity to everyone. Solidarity to everyone who's won all the socialists, who've won elections today. Hopefully they'll be able to make positive change. And, you know, to anyone who wants to absolutely destroy the chances of the working class, shame on you. And night Keir Starmer, and stop cutting our internet off. I'm sick of it. See you later.
Keep the red flag flying here.